Should we see Dricus face Sean Strickland next and the winner face Easy at UFC Africa 1? I'm not sure if they would call it UFC Africa 1. Maybe if it's a fight night. But if a title will be defended, middleweight title, Easy fighting on that card, the fight that magnitude of that big magnitude, it'll probably be, it would definitely be a pay-per-view. Yeah, so everything was drawn for us for UFC Africa to happen. I think the closest we were to UFC Africa happening was when Dricus and Easy, when we had that picture of Dricus in the cage and Easy in the cage, Easy champion, Dricus challenger. There was the little racial undertone, the little uncomfortable conversations going on. Those really, really made the storyline become huge. I believe if we had this year, hypothetically speaking, if we had Dricus versus Adesanya after that thing that happened in the cage, if we had that in Africa, if we had that pay-per-view in Africa, it would be the biggest pay-per-view for the UFC this year. Because we know who the cash cow is. It's Conor McGregor, and he is not fighting this year because he's not in the USADA testing pool, right? Adesanya is the new cash cow. If Adesanya fought Dricus after that whole debacle and after the world started splitting and we're seeing things in black and white, if that fight had happened, that would have been the biggest pay-per-view for UFC this year, and it will crack probably the top 5 pay-per-view of all times for the UFC. So it's really, really good business. So now Strickland has spoiled the party for us. Or did he? Because Dricus versus Sean Strickland, I believe Dricus would beat Sean Strickland, as most of you would think. And it might be much more interesting for Adesanya to chase the title to Africa, right? He probably would think this is the best storyline for him. Sorry. Because if you guys remember Rumble in the Jungle, right? Muhammad Ali was the big underdog. It was like Foreman's, I think it was Foreman, yeah. It was like uh well, I'm just giving hypothetical here. Marvel Knight, he says Sean will beat Dricus. But wait, you guys hear me out, hear me out. What made Rumble in the Jungle what it was the fact that the brash talker, the trash talker, Muhammad Ali, was the guy that is fighting adversity. He's the guy that everybody said he wouldn't do it. If you just take your time and watch a documentary about Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire in Congo, it was the fact that he came in, did his rope a dope, won that fight, and the whole Ali Boumaye situation, the whole African situation. One of, I think, what, the highest pay-per-view of all time, or one of the biggest pay-per-view of all time. That is what Easy would probably like. Let's say Dricus now beats Strickland, and now Easy versus Dricus should happen in Africa, South Africa. Easy will proudly be like, yes, I'm going to beat him in his home soil, right? And Easy would think, he would convince himself that he would absolutely do it. And at this point, if the odds come out, the odds will probably favor Dricus because of Easy's last performance. So it would be one of those situations where Easy already thinks his life is a movie. He already has a documentary. He probably will think, yo, this is the part 2 of my documentary. And if he actually pulls it out, he's going to be even a bigger star. And I believe you guys would want to see all that happen. But obviously, this is all hypothetical. This is if somebody beats somebody and somebody beats somebody. But again, I've given my opinion earlier about Easy fighting Strickland. I don't want Strickland to fight Dricus. I don't want Strickland to fight Dricus first. I want Easy to do a rematch with Strickland. Because I know it might be a quick turnaround. A lot of people have been advising Easy to not fight again, but I believe he should. And I think he just needs to make some adjustments. And his camp is very, very capable of doing those adjustments. And I think he can beat Strickland. I understand that Strickland would be much more confident, which might be his demise if he fights Easy again. But yes, that is my opinion. And I'm very curious to hear what your opinion is if Easy should get back in there. All right, so I think Easy should go get the title from Strickland and then go defend it against Dricus. All right, so yes, with UFC returning to China in December, how about this fantasy card to show the case for the Chinese talent? Yes, so I actually did e- sorry, I'm gonna quickly share a slide with you guys. I put a graphic together because Christopher Graham gave us a fantasy card for UFC China that will probably happen in December. And I'm going to share the graphic with you guys in 2 seconds. Sorry, it's just loading up. And you guys will tell me what you think. Yes, Marvel Knights, Nigeria versus South Africa. Let's get it. Some Amapiano versus what? Afrobeat? If you know, you know. All right, so I quickly slapped it on Canva and put it in graphics so we can discuss this better. So it's a fantasy card for UFC China. And you guys tell me what your opinion is. I haven't really had a time to look at the fighters individually to see their recent fights because obviously my head is not a UFC encyclopedia. But here we go. So in the main card, the main event obviously will be the ladies, which would be Wei Li Jiang versus Yang Xiaonan. Fun fact, guys, I spent 6 years in China before moving to the UK, so I kind of understand Chinese a bit. I do speak Chinese. So, Xiaonan in China, maybe because it might mean something else, but in China, Xiao is tiny, small, Nan is lady. So, Xiaonan is small lady. I think so. Anyways, so Wei Lijiang versus Yan Xiaonan. Uh, yes, Wei Lijiang is currently dominating with an iron fist. All her fights are not even looking close. She looks like she's levels above these ladies. And Yan Xiaonan obviously she's been in a couple fight cards. I probably should have this on so we look at it together. All right, so let's look at what Xiaonan has done. Um, here we go. I'm gonna share my screen again. All right, so Xiaonan record 17-3. Currently on a 2-fight win streak. Mackenzie Dern, which obviously that's a big one, and Jessica Andrade. So those are two huge names in the UFC that she has beaten. She lost to Carla Esparza, but those two names are very big names. I believe she's already positioned to be the next challenger for Wei Lijiang, and it only makes sense at this point. I don't think any fight has been announced for UFC China yet, but I believe this should be the main event. Oh look, she was born in Shenyang, Liaoning. That was where I was living when I was in China. I had no idea. I was living in Liaoning province. Yeah. So I guess I have a favorite now. I want Xiaonan to beat Wei Lijiang because she is from the city that I studied. All right. So moving down to the card, the next fight will be Song Yadong versus Piotr Yan. Piotr Yan, obviously one of the most unluckiest fighters in the UFC. Uh, he's ever since he hit the knee on Aljo, it looks like his stock went down a bit with him being unlucky. We saw him against Sugar Sean O'Malley, the current champion of the division, and that was a very close fight. A lot of people thought that he won that fight. All right, so let's look at Song Yadong. All right, Song Yadong, Kung Fu Kid. record